And good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. Hey, what's happening? Well, as you can see, I'm not really doing many shows. Maybe one or two a week. Dooba-dooba-dooba-doo. Let's see. I wanted to show you something. And one of the reasons why I'm not able to basically. So here's the space station, man cave. I don't have much room to move around, and I'm not weightless here. So, I mean, you can be in a place like this, and if you're weightless, you can just float around and stuff. Not a big deal. I have to like wiggle my way through it. That's because I have like 15 different homes and like 60,000 square feet of stuff, and so this is a little bit of what I had. So anyway.
So Larry Rat. That's a big rat. That's a radioactive rat. Let me, Mr. President.
See, here's more of the stuff.
Donnie, you're not better than me.
On my deck.
Can you speak honestly, Donnie? Donnie, what do you see when you see all the homeless? Shitholes? Is this the new look? Or do you have to have a logo on it?
Hey. So, how you doing, Solaris? Solarnic? Soul. I'll just call you Soul. You know?
This is the American way. This is everything American. But then we send it off to Bangladesh or some other, that's the shithole. Let them.
No wonder.
1/2 a penny in the top.
No wonder people are not buying American. Yeah, Donnie's just great. I just love Donnie. You know, he's a guy who will destroy America. You know, we've been destroying America since we signed the congressional, the illusion of being free. You know, our Constitution. That's an illusion of being free. And Donnie is bringing it home, baby. Oh boy, is he ever! You know, I would say, let's say, right now, here it is, the end of April. By the end of May, we're going to have some serious chunks missing from our supply chain. And remember I mean, I don't understand what people thought Donnie was going to be any different from the first time he was president. And really, he's doing the same thing he did the first time. But this time, he has the Heritage Foundation and 10,000 lawyers behind him. So he could just, and he has a foil, neon husk. And so, and Husk is just what Douche went in to do was to unplug all the federal entities that had some sense of autonomy and basically unplug their servers. So when people came to work on Monday and they flashed their little badges, they couldn't get through the door. Right? They didn't get fired. They didn't get this. They just weren't there. And then they were told, "Oh, you haven't been able to get into the office," And so they would try to go online, and their emails were gone, and there was no way of getting there. And And so those, like AID, that's what happened to AID. Now, the problem with AID is, AID is really just an extension of the CIA. It's an intelligence entity. You have three elements of America's power. There is our military, the Defense Department, aircraft carriers, the B-52s, the B-1 bombers that can strike anywhere pretty much without getting touched until if something kicks off between Israel and Iran and we get pulled into it, we're going to lose an aircraft carrier, right? An aircraft carrier group. See, the problem with an aircraft carrier is it's great to reach out and blow up somebody like the Houthis. They can do that all day long. But once they start to seriously get attacked, right, seriously, not just a few missiles, 12 or 15, but if, 500, 600 of those missiles are going towards the aircraft carrier group, the problem is the, those really Berkeley class destroyers that have all the missiles in their trunk and really amazing radar and computers that can shoot down anything. They only have so many missiles in the boot, and they're not right next door. So because they can't just ship those missiles that they keep in the boot. And the boot is an English term for the trunk, in the rear of the bus. And so they have like 300 to 400 in each of these little containers. They don't have more down below that they can stick back in that container. No, it's because it's very sophisticated, and they have to be placed in that container back home at the shipyard where they have all this fancy equipment that sets it all up and gets it ready. Once that destroyer has shot off 400, and it's not just they just don't have anti-aircraft missiles. They have cruise missiles and other missiles that do other stuff. So they have very limited amounts, and those missiles that shoot, so the Houthis shoot a missile into the Red Sea at the aircraft carrier Truman, right? And the missile that the Houthis shoot cost about 50 grand. Whereas the one that the destroyer shoots to take it down, and they don't just shoot one, they shoot 3 or 4, cost about $11 million. So just the cost effectiveness of like 50 grand to $11 million, you shoot 3 of them, that's $33 million to 50 grand, right? So you can shoot a lot of 50 grand missiles at an aircraft carrier, and you only have so many of those $11 million missiles to shoot down the $50,000 missile. So one little $50,000 missile gets through that and hits, let's say the Harry S. Truman. Harry S. Truman is larger under the water than is above, right? So they have a big target under the water, and if they get that missile to and then just go through the water for about 50 feet and hit 100 feet below the water line of the Harry S. Truman, that's where you get. And if you get let's say 20 of those, so let's say the Houthis shoot 1,000 of those $50,000 missiles at the Harry S. Truman. And at the point of 300 of those missiles that get shot down, the destroyer group around the Harry S. Truman runs out of missiles. That's it. So that means another 900 missiles can hit the Harry S. Truman and those destroyers without even getting touched. And so we have a guy who spent this last New Year's Eve swimming around in a big plastic champagne glass, naked and drunk out of his mind. And that's our Secretary of Defense. Good guy. He really knows what he's doing. He's fired half the people who have been in the Defense Department for most of their careers and have been through many wars and understand logistics and structures and all of that. It isn't there anymore. Sorry. And all Neon Husk did with his douche crowd was they went in and scraped off all of your data from all those databases, from Social Security, from Medicaid, Medicare. All of those things were just scraped away. And then entities like AID, we no longer have that intelligence form that AID was. And the really problem is, 3/4 of the starving planet, which is about 2 billion people, we have enabled them to starve, right? And we support um, both sides of what's going on in Africa. The really big war, it's not the Gaza Strip, it's not Ukraine, it's over there in Sierra Leone, right? It's in Darfur, it's the Democratic Congo. That's where millions of people are dying, right? And hundreds of millions of people are being disrupted, right? Because that little war in Sierra Leone, it's like all about, there's the army and then there's the rapid defense force, and they're the same thing. And they said, we just need to get rid of all these people so we can own and control and get rich on all of the natural resources of that area, which is it's very interesting. In Africa, all the countries that have no oil, no gold, no uridium, they have peace, right? They're getting along, right? And they don't, the IMF isn't going to lend them a lot of money because they only spend what they got, right? And they're getting along pretty good. I mean, if I was in my 20s, I would go live in Africa because that's the new place that's really going to spin up. Right? So, within the dynamics of culture and that and innovation, Africa is in place, not here. We're dead. We're dead in the water. And all the so I live in a super mega. Look, I'm wearing my mega coat. Everyone here is still whack job. Donnie's doing a great job. He's got real balls, man. He's steady up to the elites. He is the elite, gang. He is you don't understand. Donald Trump ain't the president. He's a game show host, right? And the game show is how quickly can we destroy America? And he's doing a great job. He's not even 100 days. Like I said, within 2 weeks, you're going to see some severe supply chain lack of things on the shelves, So we experienced this during the COVID, Donnie had some real opportunities to stop COVID from coming into America. But he said, oh, it's just like the flu, no big deal. 1 million people died in America from it. And probably another 10 million are suffering from long haul COVID. And he's pulled the plug on everything COVID. You go on, the health line there, and it would tell you how to get a free COVID test, right? We have like 1 billion of them in the warehouse. Donald Trump is going to burn them because we don't need them. I want to just keep them in the warehouse just in case. Oh, we don't need them. He's burning them as we speak right now. So if you want a COVID test, no longer can you get 3 of them free from your health department. And your health department doesn't exist anymore. He's defunded those, whatever little money. It's like all the states that, enlarged Medicaid, all that money's going away in about 2 weeks. So guys like me can have no health care. That's why I'm going to get all the operations I'm going to go and get, instead of waiting. You all said, you better get it now. We got you on the list. It's kind of paid. It's all ready to go. So yeah, I'm going to have open heart surgery. I'm going to have my hip replaced, my knees replaced, like all in like 3 weeks. Good idea. I don't really care. It'll make, if it pulls off, really great. I mean, I have this thing in my heart that it really doesn't bother me. I mean, if I walk up a big steep hill, I don't go, it's like, yeah, I can feel my heart pumping a little harder. And I looked at all the data that, the sonograms and the AKGs and all the stuff. And yeah, and the operation they're going to do, it's like they do like, 1,000 of them a month. So it's not like, but whenever they open you up, something can always go wrong. So from here until 4th of July, pray for your Sensei Alba. Right? Anyway, so I am, and where I live, trying to get a picture of it. Where I live is a good. I mean, the picture of the radioactive rat. This.
American way. This is everything American. But then we send it off to Bangladesh or some other, as Donald would say, shithole. What do you think this is? Huh? Is this snow? No, snow. Sleet? A little bits of plastic falling from the sky. What do you think that is? Are you breathing in the other parts of it? Is it causing you cancer or debilitating your mental abilities? Is it why you can't get an erection or your clitoris seems like a piece of rubber? Reminds me of a Robert Frost poem about the falling snow, falling in my face, waking me up, reminding me that I don't have much to talk about. This ain't snow, guys. It's about 40 degrees out, right? And it's clearing. It's going to get cold, cold, cold. Then it's going to snow. Then it's going to get icy. And we'll have a... okay. So here, all of these trees here, right? All of these trees. They basically exploded out of that hill. These were the really big trees. These other trees are like, 2 generations after these guys. But these were the big ones. And they exploded, and they were all over this road. They kind of just exploded out of the ground and covered this whole road from way down there all the way up, all the way out with big, gigantic trees. And stayed there for the first, 6, 7 days.
So that, my friends helped me dig that out there.
Since the event, since September when the Hurricane Helene came through here and obliterated everything, the developers have bought up all the properties that the Pokey folk had, and they're rushing to build houses. All of the roads, these are secondary roads. These are farm roads. These aren't state roads. This is the shape that our roads are in all over. And if I, took the time to stop at every inch of the roads, the 50 or so thousand miles of secondary and tertiary roads, this is what it looks like. The state and county have done nothing for 5 months. September, October, November, December, January, here it is February. And that's because 321, which was the state federal road going north-south, got washed out. And the rich people, the developers, want it replaced with a 4-lane highway, which is going to cost $2 or $3 billion. And they'd much rather have their big trucks come up and down this road. Tractor trailers come up and down this road.
And that's why it's as messed up as it is.
Someone who lives around.
And the Duke was telling me that, hey Al, I'm gay. Al, I'm gay. Anyway, so all of these things are just metaphors of why and where and how and what's going on in our world, right? And so there's two or three of you there. So what's going on in your world? Let's hear from you. What do you think's going on? Right? I said about 2 weeks. There's going to be some supply chain things that are going to be very noticeable in Walmarts and Targets and stores like that. Because we're not going to be anything, big box stores. Nothing's going to be on the shelves. I mean, not nothing. A lot of stuff ain't going to be on the shelves. And it's just going to worse and worse and worse. Because there are a lot of Canada's like, screw you, America. China, screw you, America. Now, this is, it's going to be tough on China, but this is a great opportunity because if they can turn their population around to be the consumers that we are, and why shouldn't they be? Because the cheap crap is being made in China. So the Chinese should be able to buy it even cheaper because they don't even have to ship it there, right? And I'm sure the government at some point soon is going to tell the Chinese people, listen, we're going to give you money to buy. And one reason why the Chinese people aren't doing it, they invested in real estate. They had a real crash of the real estate in the last 5 years. So they're kind of freaking out about it. And their population's like, they got more old people. So the old people don't want to spend the money because they're scared they won't have it when they get even older. So that's, China's just going to say, listen, we're going to take care of you. We're going to have a safety net. We're going to become Sweden. And so this world is very interesting. So what I see is going to happen is that Donald Trump is going to be forced into a corner where he can't really do anything. And that's kind of what happened with Dick Cheney and little Georgie Porgy. I mean, they were handed an economy by Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton had for 120 years up until Bill Clinton, no government ever had a balanced budget, and Bill Clinton had $60 billion deficit. That was it, right? And of all the presidents, per capita of the population, he had the smallest debt period ever, right? And he basically put America dollar as number one. He de-controlled everything, right? Forget it. Ronald Reagan did 1/10 of what Bill did, and Bill basically really made the global, not George H, but Bill Clinton, who basically built the global economic neocon system, right? So anyway, so he hands over this amazing, hey, everything's great, over to Dick Cheney and George W. And within 5 months, that administration put the American government in the hole by $7 trillion. The biggest increase of debt ever. And it wasn't that we want more stuff. No, debt of the government. And it wasn't that they were paying for grandma's health care. No, they were buying more weapons, doing more, a lot of basically tax breaks for the uber wealthy. That was the biggest thing that added the T to the debt. So now we're at something close to $47 trillion. And that's just on the surface. Other people say it's close to like $200 trillion. And that was done, just in 20 years. So, and Donnie is making it worse, right? And he has destroyed the guardrails and the norms of the government. That gave everyone in this country a kind of, oh, well, we're okay. We're a democracy. I mean, we never were. We were just, pleasant slaves, right? So here we are. We're coming into this. Now, normally you guys love me telling stories of the old crone or the rock and roll days of New York. And all those times were the worst of times. Dickens, it was the worst, best of times, worst of times. We're all going to heaven, we're all going the other way, right? Go read Tale of Two Cities, right? Go read Dickens' 2 best books that put him in the mark of being one of the first modern authors, was Tale of Two Cities and Christmas Carol. And they both dealt seriously with the imbalance of wealth, right? And Thomas Jefferson said the biggest threat to American democracy, which he said, he didn't use the word democracy. He said the biggest threat to American what we are is what are we? Forget what we are. But anyway, well, the biggest threat to America existence existentially is the difference in wealth discrepancy. Right? All the different the war was about that. The War of 1812 was that, even though we were like going after England. England didn't want to have a war. We wanted to just steal stuff from Canada. So England kind of basically England got paying the bills for America. So it fermented that war, that revolution, and basically won every single. England had the best army and navy in the world at that time, and so they won every battle except for the last one, and then they walked home because that was the best way they could um, walk away from America without political brouhaha. Right? Say these guys are just too much trouble. If we try to put it down, we had this war. We spent all this money, and now it's let them do it. War of 1812 was they came in and went straight up to Potomac, burnt DC to the ground. The founding fathers were doddering all fools. Tunes the plan. The plan, yes, it's the plan. It really is. And the fact that most people can't see it, and it's right in our face. So Donnie's trying to, tell Ukraine, you have hold no of the cards. We're going to just hand you over to Russia. Well, no. If you look what's going on the battlefield, yeah, I mean, Russia has, 1,000 times more guys per capita, right? 1,000 times more money, 1,000 times more everything. And still, Ukraine is beating it. They just blew up Russia's largest, warehouse of bombs, missiles, etc. And it was right next to Moscow by about 200 miles north of that. And so it shows that the Russian air defense worthless or doesn't exist. They've already shot their wad, and they're not building replacements fast enough. So Ukraine can just come in with Heathkit, Radio Shack, drones, and take out this whole, 2 square miles of armaments. And Russia lost 20% of all its artillery shells. Right? That's a big. And that all that stuff is like new stuff. They got a ton of stuff in that other warehouse over there. That's like from World War II. Yeah, they can. But Russia has been putting that out in the field, and every third shell that they fire from that blows up in the gun and kills the gun crew and takes out that gun, which costs like $11 million. Right? So Russia's not really hasn't really learned anything. Right? And the only reason they were able to take back that part of Russia that Ukraine had got last summer, which was like 1,500 square miles, is that Donald unplugged, unceremoniously, Ukraine from all of the satellites, because Ukraine had basically set up defensive positions, and when Russia would kind of come towards them, those satellites said, "Yo, these guys are coming," and they could just take them out. It was like shooting ducks. But when they couldn't see anything, and they couldn't start shooting until that tank was right in front of them, that's when. And so when they saw that, they said, "Okay, this is what we're going to do. We are going to." And they had already prepared this. They put a defensive line still in Russia, but about 80 miles from the front of what they had taken. They had just, as those guys, because they saw that the Russians were, before Downey unplugged the satellites, they saw the Russians gathering the people. So, and Downey was talking like this. So they basically pulled the majority of their own people back and left the guys who were just stone crazy, wanting to kill Russians, up on the front. And then the Russians came, and still the majority of those guys who should have been dead got out. And that defensive line held. So the Russians didn't flow into Ukraine. And they lost about 50,000 Russian soldiers from that point. Meaning it didn't turn out, yes, Ukraine let the Russians have, 200 and something square miles of Russia back, but Russia lost 50,000 young men and tanks, and I mean they're really in a. And now that this depot has been obliterated, and they're still hitting things like that, but it doesn't really make the big news because Ukraine isn't going after the civilians like Russia's going after civilians, because that's all Russia can do. The Ukrainians have put up defenses around their military sites where they can't be touched, but they can't protect every city. So that's that, right? And what's going on we are that close to nuclear war in the Gaza Strip because they're starving. I said this a year ago when October something happened. I said, listen, guys, if you go back to my shows, you'll see. I said, listen, Hamas is an extension of the Israeli Defense Force, of Mossad, their CIA intelligence. They started Hamas. They picked those guys. They picked their ideology and gave them money and kept giving them money up until October 7th. And they knew a year ago that Hamas was going to do this because that's what Bibi wanted. Bibi wanted an attack on Israel. So, it's worse than the Holocaust. And they put babies in ovens. None of that is true. But our media just played it over and over and over again. Right? It's called propaganda. So anyway, so a year goes by plus, here it is April, so that's October, November, December, January, February, March, April. So that's like, 18, 19 months. And in reality, Israel is losing, right? Because they can't, with an Hamas does not have an air force. Hamas doesn't have tanks. Hamas doesn't have artillery. Yet they're keeping Israel at bay. And the only way that Israel can really do what they want is that they're going to have to kill 2-point-something million people. And they're going to starve them to death. And disease is going to run rapid. But what's going to happen with disease, you get some pretty nasty things that come together in a war zone, right? And so you're going to get some kind of virus or some kind of infection that comes out of Gaza. That's unstoppable. And Donnie has basically pulled the plug on all health research. He's pulled the plug on all the got rid of those tests, right? He's burning them. And so if that sweet spot comes where he's unplugged us from the World Health Organization. He's like AID was one of the best things AID was. It has its intelligence arm. It could tell what diseases were going on. AID was a thing that said, there's a thing over here. I mean, we don't even know what it is. That's how we found out about Ebola about 20, 30 years ago, was through AID. So now we have none of that. So it's opening the door. You'd see how COVID just walked in. Somebody just got on an airplane and bingo, we had a pandemic in America. So, the safest thing for America is the fact that most people don't want to come to it anymore. So that might be a good thing. But we're going to have a pandemic to make the last one look like nothing. Because this thing that will pop out of this will pop out of Africa and pop out of the Gaza Strip, and it will decimate the planet. And the fact that the transportation of food is being disrupted by Donnie's tariffs, we're going to see starvation. We're going to see starvation and disease in America. It's going to run rampant because morons haven't been getting, the fact that people are getting measles and mumps and chicken pox when it was wiped out 30 years ago. It's all good. So that's why I'm going for the hospital thing right now, because it'd be nice. Okay, so it fix my heart, and I can be like, oh, I can run around and fix my hip so my leg actually works. That'd be good, right? And my sister is like, one of my sisters is like the queen of stem cells. She kept saying, oh, that's wrong. You need to do stem cells. I said, great, send me some stem cells. Well, I have these packs, but they're really expensive. I can't send them to you. Like your brother, you can't. How much does it cost? Well, about $100 a month. And that's my family, and that's everyone. I watch around here where everyone talks about family values. Nobody helps each other. Now they did during the a colossal event, and I thought that was going to swing this whole area into being community. They're almost all the way back to being as stupid as they were before the event. Now we're going to have another one. We're going to, because all around us, Kentucky is being obliterated and has been for the last 10 years. It's mind-boggling. And Donnie is refusing to send any. He said, it doesn't. FEMA doesn't exist anymore. Right? What's her name? Huckabee, who's now his, secretary, the news secretary that he had the first time around was Huckabee. What's her name? And now she's governor. And Arkansas has been really hit bad the last 6 months, and he has refused to send any federal monies. And all the red states in the last 6 months, they have all the hurricanes, tornadoes, flooding, dust. We're going to be hit with some serious dust storms. That's on the East Coast. I would say because there are a lot of people on the East Coast that have their immune systems have been whacked by exposure just because of the dense population and the geography of the East Coast. They're exposed to some serious, global warming is basically kind of a joke. But the exposure that humans get to industrial exhaust of cars, trucks, factories, that's a serious thing. I mean, you look at the growth of industrialization in America and the growth of cancer. Back in 1911, when they really started taking serious things about this, there was like 1 in 10,000 people got cancer. Now it's every other person. You live long enough, you're going to have cancer. Right? So all these red states, they're the ones that Donnie's refusing to help. And no one's really, Fox News isn't saying much about that. I mean, the letters that Huckabee has sent Donald are pretty amazing. I mean, you can go find them because everything that's sent to the White House, at least up until now, is on their dashboard. So you can go read the stuff that she is. And if you go to her website for her, you can read it too. And you can see all the deprivation, right? And I'm sure there are websites on YouTube that let's ask Google. Boo, 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 boo. What red states are receiving no assistance from the White House? What red states are receiving no help from the White House? Tornado victims blocked from federal recovery aid. Disaster survivors in Arkansas left homeless by recent tornadoes have been blocked from receiving federal recovery aid by the Trump administration. Trump officials discuss making it much harder to get any kind of assistance for anything from the federal government, especially in emergency times, right? That was 1 day ago from what the blue states are bailing out red states. They're being the brothers, right? So Tennessee and Kentucky and North Carolina are all really red states, and they are screwing their own people. The wealthy people are getting money. Poor people, no, not so much. A new 5-year assessment of state level inflows and outposts of federal funds find red states are being propped up by blue states. Not the federal government, but the neighboring blue states. Let's see. Beyond Ivy League, JFK Jr.'s NIH slashed science among U.S. Recipients. 96% of the institutions that lost grants in the first month of political conservation state include Florida, Ohio, goes on. Trump denies disaster aid, tells states to do it themselves. Oh, so anyway, you get the idea. And that's before the first 100 days. I love Donald Trump. Go, Donnie. Go, douche. Go, douche. I love it. I just love it, right? Because I live on $400 a month, right? I eat dandelions as my major thing of food, which is really good. That's why I weigh 210 pounds, right? I used to weigh 460 pounds when I worked in the corporate world. When I showed you this is America and there's the dead rat, that's the nuclear rat, that's America, right? Good luck with that. Oh, so we're 41 minutes and 51 seconds into this show. There's two of you there. 2 thumbs up. Thanks. Anybody want to send me anything on the old PayPal? Just remember, the dude awake 42 at Gmail. A couple of people have, and it still works. So if you feel like it, and that's like the cherry on top. I don't really need it, but it makes me feel good. Oh, here's something that made me really feel good. 3 things happened this last week. I think it was Thursday. I was sitting in my reading chair, and the outside was deciding whether it was going to downpour or just be cloudy. I woke up at maybe 10:30 in the morning, and I was sitting there, and I was looking at this. See, I don't have any internet or anything up there. My phone kind of works up there. Anyway, I try the phone, and it doesn't ring, but I'm sitting next to it, so it lights up. So I see the phone number, and it's a 212 number. Oh, I wonder who that is. So I pick it up, and this guy goes, "You well, Bob?" And I go, "Yeah, I think so." He goes, "You know, blah blah blah." I said, "Oh yeah, I think I know him. That's me." He goes, "Oh, wow. Well, I'm a New York Times stringer, and I've been assigned to write your obituary because you did a lot of things in the 70s, 80s in New York City. You started about 20 different art organizations and cultural organizations and political organizations. You helped start the No Nukes. You took over 50 buildings and put 500. I mean, he just went through all the things I did. Well, that's he said he helped start a thing called Collab that had a TV show on Manhattan Cable called Potato Wolf. And I said, yeah, I kind of know all this. And he goes, and there you had 3 different art galleries that were like not private, but the artist, they were like art gallery collectives, right? And one was called ABC No Real. And the other 2 was Sixth Sense and with Yuri, and another one was called The Shuttle with Sanjo, and then with 2 other big ones, there's like the Knitting Factory and PS1, and we did a whole bunch of other amazing big shows in big abandoned buildings, right? Like the terminal, that's the military terminal over in Brooklyn, had 6 million square feet. I wanted to do an art show for 100,000 artists. We got about 1,000. But anyway, and I never took credit for anything. I just kind of came up with these ideas. Found somebody who was kind of doing something. Like, why don't we do this? We can get money doing. And I would like kind of just what I did with the community center here. I don't take any credit for that. But 5 years ago, I said, they're going to get rid of the school. Rich people are going to take it. It's going to be under the church. Right? Oh, no, the church has been here 125 years. The school's been here 60. It's never going to happen. Well, 2 years ago, the last day of school, the county said, okay, school's closed. And everyone who worked there and all the students who thought they were going to, the kids who were in first grade who thought they'd come back for second grade. And so everyone was like, what? And so, yeah, but you're all going to be bused, into the city and go to school. We took over a prison and we're going to make that your school. And instead of having 10 kids to a teacher, it's going to be 40 to 60 kids to a teacher. And you're going to be there with kids who are from the hood, And so good luck with that. And instead of getting up at 7 in the morning to get to school, you're going to have to get up at 4 in the morning. And, oh, by the way, we can't really send you buses. So your parents are going to have to take you halfway there. And in this town, the bus will pick you up. And you'll probably have to stand up because it's already full of kids that it normally picks up. So you're going to have to stand up. So if you get in a car crash, you'll probably be dead. And everyone's like, and I was said that to the T for 5 years back 2 years ago. I said, this is going to happen. This is never going to happen. This is going to happen. This is going to happen. So it did. And so everyone's, oh my God, it's all over. It's terrible, blah, 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 blah. And our church, that had 140 people on it, now had like 40 people on it, right? And so it's like 15 churches, from the state line to, Hampton, right? 20-mile part of that county state road, had 16 churches on it, right? It's really interesting. I'm trying to get the Catholics, the Methodists, and the Baptists to work together. Oh, blah, blah, blah. Well, I finally did it, and they did it, and we had this amazing food bank that was feeding a lot of people before the event, and that's why when the event happened, we had our own supply chain. And between 81 and the community center, the road wasn't washed out. Now, 20 feet behind one of the buildings of the community center is where everything got washed out. 20 feet. If it had come in another 120 feet, it would have taken everything out. And I didn't even notice it. I went around there a couple of weeks after the event, thinking, because we got so much stuff. I was thinking, where are we going to put this? Where are we going to put that? Because we stuffed a 70,000 square foot school to the gills with stuff, right? And we still had more stuff. So anyway, let's look into the back, see if we could put some containers back there. And but it was gone. The place that used to be like the overflow parking lot was gone. It didn't even rain here. I went to a conference at ETSU of meteorologists and NOAA scientists that were there to discuss how that hurricane happened. And they all said, because it was kind of a private little group, that the water didn't come from the sky, it came from the ground. And I showed that picture earlier of all the trees that shot out of the ground. That was the story. So, whether it's space-based weapons or that big array up there in the North Pole, some things rotten in Denmark. That's why Carrot Head wants Greenland so much, man. That place is 4 times bigger than Texas, right? And it has a tremendous, more fresh, like unbelievably fresh water in those big icebergs. All you have to do is grab them and like pull them out, by tugboat to New York, and you'd have 1 trillion gallons of fresh water. Put it in a little bathtub and let it melt. So anyway, this is fun. It's gonna be like that. You read everything from Mesopotamia, Babylon, Egypt, Greece, Rome. Every one of those empires were just the world's greatest, almost strongest economy, military, until it wasn't. And when you read, Heart of Darkness, it's a great thing. Everything collapses from the center. And what a better archetype than Donald Trump. He's putting himself, everything has to be about him, so he is the center. He's going to cause a collapse. And I mean collapse like you cannot frigging believe. Go look at some of those pictures I think Steichen took during the depression of the people in the Appalachian. You know, that mother like this, and her kids are like, oh, I'm starving to death. And it's going to be like that. But I still have dandelions to eat. Meaning me, your sensei, Al Bob, I'm okay. I have 3 sources of water. I have a spring, take water off the roof, and I have a well. So I have water, I have septic. Things 20 years ago, the old holler grandmas, because I used to fix their refrigerators and make their electricity work, they would come over and they'd have plants, and they planted. So I have golden seal, koha, you name every medicinal herb, every nutritious plant, they planted on my hill. And I don't do anything. All I do is, end of March, early April, I go in there with my weed whacker, just take everything down, rake it off. And I have one of these plants that kind of goes out and gets really big. It's like an ornamental thing. But when winter comes, all of that stuff that's about 6 foot high turns to straw, basically. Right? So I hit that. And it's great to start a fire, any kind of. So I bundle it up and I put it in garbage bags. So whenever I'm going to have a barbecue, because I don't have a barbecue thing, I have a stone circle and I have a little thing that the Indians used to do. They used to call their oven. Right? It's kind of where the Dutch oven got its concept. But anyway, that's what I do. So I'm like extremely sustainable. You saw all the stuff. I've got more stuff than, Anyway, so that's kind of it. 52:16. What time is it? 2 o'clock. I think I'm going to go. I'm going to go visit a friend and do my laundry. And the sun is coming out, so it's not raining. I got here and it was raining. I parked. It stopped raining. I came in. It rained, cloudy. Now it's sunny. So it's all good. It's time to go. Love you guys. Maybe Monday. Remember, love's the only thing